All right, Luis. Well, it's time to go ahead and get started. Let's get your watch torn down and start the process of getting you serviced. So what I like to do is remove some of the components that are part of your winding assembly prior to taking your watch out of the case, as it makes it slightly easier to handle. So look at your everything looks pretty clean to start with. Springs look good. Let's take the power out of your main spring. Now that we've got everything removed. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, so now we can take your watch out of the case, and the way we do that, we push your pushers in just a bit, remove your case ring, which retains your pushers. Ingenious little design there. All right, that spring has some weirdness to it. It's okay. It look a little off, but it's okay. You got a slightly bent pusher. Definitely old seals that need to be replaced. So those will go into the bath and get cleaned up. I imagine these springs are okay, but certainly not factory looking. All right. Take your stem out, put that aside. We've got, again, old seal, hard piece of plastic. But your spring and your gear, they're all in good shape, so that's nice. Come back to that in a moment. All right, let's go ahead and get your case out or off. Okay. Now, everybody lined up. Okay. Let's get your dial protected. Your minute hand and your hour hand. Right, so now we need some levers so we can move your minute recording wheel. Let me see if I can get this little bit of debris off of here to begin with. of that's actually the dial degradation. I'd hate to grind something into the dial that doesn't need to be. Actually, I think that's just patina. That's just part of the dial. Okay, well that's good to know. Good shape. Nothing is going to be foreign there. It's just part of the beauty. All right, now off that comes. There we go. All right, so now we can go ahead and take a look at your dial back. Make sure that it's consistent with your case back. No reason to think it's not. It has the right kind of age and look to it, unless it's been replaced by the factory, of course. But I think it's going to show us something that's consistent. All right, we've got what looks like a 2.8. And on your case back, you have 2.7. So, within a month. That's nice. There's your 2.8, and there's your 2.7. Very good. All right, I'm convinced. That's good. Okay, so let's proceed. Let us proceed. There we go. Straight up, straight off. Okay. Just going to take your palette fork out. Give that a very close look. I have no reason to think it's bad. I just always like to give it a close inspection. Oh yeah, nice and smooth. That's good. That's very good. All right. I like what I see with this movement. So I only see hair. Go away. Okay, off your bridge. A little bit pushed out on that bushing. Those are from resets. Hard resets tend to push that bushing around, but that's okay. Doesn't really alter the function. It's just a matter of interesting wear. So what's cool, what's interesting is that this has a silver finish on the minute recording wheel. Sometimes most of the time, they're gold. That one's silver. Or, I wouldn't say most of the time, some of the time. No generalizations, because you never know. Okay, there's a spring. And here's another spring. And your hammer pops off. Looks pretty good. Nice clean components. This is a clean watch. It's either sat for a long time after a service or was just maintained well by its owner. It's nice to see a clean watch like this. Okay. Didn't quite get there. couple more turns. One. Two. Right, one operating lever. Two operating levers. Right, let's get your column wheel and its bushing. There we go. Okay. No water damage. That's really nice. No pitting or crustiness on these bridges, which is always nice to see. Let's take your cover plate off your jewel and bushing. One jewel, one bushing, usually on this. There we go. Take a very close look at your bushing and your jewel. Make sure everybody's happy. Clean. Get some peg wood and clean that up. Be 100%. Take off your click and your ratchet wheel. Okay. Okay, so it looks pretty clean up here, although very, very floppy. You see that moving around there. That should be a bit tighter. But we'll get there. We're going to put our new jewels in place. You're the second recipient of my new American-made upper and lower mainspring arbor port jewels, which are very nice to see. They're just so beautiful. So happy we had those made. Right, so we're going to put a bushing here, or take that bushing and make that a jewel. Set that aside. Okay, very important component right here. Give that a quick look. Oh yeah, that's good. It's good resistance there. Here's your third wheel. And your escape wheel. And your barrel. Oh yeah, look at that. That is oblong. That should be nice and circular, but it's not, which is typical. Not that the watch was abused, it was just used, and as such, the soft brass of the main plate just kind of gives way. Over time, that's just what happens. Center wheel looks good. Okay, let's get her flipped over and let's do the other side. Okay. All right. Take off your C-clip. Ping. Oh, come on. Okay. English Spanish day wheel. Got a very slight dimple here on your Saturday. A little bit of damage near Monday. That's okay. Doesn't seem to affect the function, which is good. Okay. One-piece plate. It's a little distorted. Might have to just replace that, but we'll see how it works. Okay, time for the date wheel. Comes right off. Spring. Corrector. Metal wheels, that's nice to see. Thing looks good. Only one piece of plastic in this movement, and that's right here. That piece right there. But it's in good shape and will last forever. Without a doubt. Metal intermediate wheel. Looks good. Cannon pinion. You may have to tighten that up just a touch. Came off a little easy. Okay. Ooh, it's interesting. Don't see that very often. Huh. Some interesting wear there. Wonder why. It's almost as though something was caught or you had a bad tooth that dug in. I'll have to take a very close look at your minute wheel. See if there is a tooth that's out of line, but it seems odd because it is in the track of the teeth. It looks pretty flat. Interesting. That's upside down. Not that it doesn't have proper function in that configuration, but it just means that whoever worked on this didn't quite realize that it has a oil cup on the top, so it's got a one-directional way of being put in. But that's okay. We'll get it right this time. Okay, take off your yoke and spring. Take off your lever. Which still has some lubrication on it, so that's nice. I tend not to put oil on this. I tend to put a grease that holds that oil, or holds that lubrication in place a little better. All right, so that's your winding pinion, and with that, we are done with the teardown. So next step is to jewel this. Some scratching here. Woo! Who did that, I wonder? It is not Seiko factory. Anyway, we'll go ahead and get this jeweled, and we'll come back. All right. Okay, Luis. Well, what is always part of my process is to, make sure that even though the case might be clean and the crystal might be new or unscratched or whatever it might be, I always, make it a point to go through the movement and be sure that everything is as it should be, and also go through the case and make sure that's exactly as it should be. And I feel sort of vindicated sometimes when I do that. And this is one of those cases. So unfortunately, you didn't have your spacer washer, this sort of wavy washer that has to go between your rotating ring and your spacer, or your essentially your keeper for your L-shaped gasket for your crystal. And luckily I do have one, so that has to go there, so that when we put all this back together, everything fits the right way. And so that goes on top of here and should go down into there. There it goes. And then this goes here. And so that leaves you a slight compression of this and keeps everything fitted the proper way. Now, will it function without it? Yes. Is it correct? No. So I like to make sure that, when you get your watch back, it's correct. And so I'm going to put this this gasket, essentially washer, in place to ensure that we're at the right geometry. Now, the earlier models, the A movements were different height than the B's. This is a B. Earlier 69, 70, some 71s had an A movement, and because of that, there wasn't enough space to put that washer, and so as a consequence, it's not there. But here it should be there. So when we rebuild your case, it will be there. All right, just some information. Okay, Luis, we're about ready to get going here, so let's start with the reconstruction of your 6139. Okay, so first thing always is lubrication of your jewels. So now you can see here we've got your brand new lower mainspring arbor port jewel right here. So it's also got its partner, which is the upper mainspring arbor port jewel. Right. Okay. Get your center wheel in. Okay. All right. Let's take a close look at all your wheels just at the last moment here, just to be sure everybody's clean and free of dust. Here's your third wheel. All right, let's get your escape wheel. Right, and your chronograph wheel. Pre-lubricated that, so it's ready to go. Okay. Now, it's a very simple train setup with these, because there's no hacking and there's nothing really beside these three pieces that need to go in. It doesn't have a hand winder, so no intermediary gear. So we drop the train bridge right on. Get everybody lined up. Alrighty, easy. Check, make sure everybody's still moving freely. I just like to check the train just to be sure every time. One of those steps I take to set my own mind at ease. Right. Good. All right, let's go ahead and lubricate while we're here. Third wheel. Escape wheel. Now come on, screw. There we go. If there's a hole to fall in, they will try. Okay. Put your click spring in. And your ratchet wheel. Okay. Wow, very willing movement. That's nice. Okay. So next is we're going to build all the chronograph components, and then we'll flip over and put together your calendar side up to a certain point, and then we'll come back. So let's do as we always do. Lubricate. Okay, so put your levers in place. Now we need to put your bushing. Column wheel. All right. Now for your screw. Okay. Okay, let's put Okay. Now it's time for your hammer, which means it's hammer time. There we go. All right. All right, now for your chronograph wheel, your hour or minute recording wheel. There we go. And your intermediary wheel. Okay, there we go. Okay, so those are your components of your chronograph operating assembly. So now for the chronograph bridge, which goes on next. Make sure everybody's flat in the right spots. looking pretty good. And there we go. Okay. Good. Okay, so now we flip and lubricate and build out a few parts over here. Okay, so we gotta lubricate a couple places. Third wheel and escape wheel and your center wheel for your cannon pinion. Yeah, I think that feels pretty good. Okay, so now we have to put in your die shock setting. Your pallet fork. All right. Okay. Put some power in your mainspring. And now for the moment. Hairspring looks good, balance looks good. So let's get it in there. Okay. It's a good start. Put your second die shock. And with that, we're running. So let's see how it's doing. Okay, well, starting off pretty good. We're going to make some adjustments here and get your beat error and your rate in a good spot. So let's make a small move and see where that puts us. Oop, that was a rather large move. What did that do? Went the wrong way. Okay. Let's go back this way. Okay, good. Go in the right direction. Well, those numbers are pretty fun. Let's take some of that rate out. Then we'll readjust your beat error. Okay. Okay, good. Going in the right direction. Okay, let's get the rate down a little bit. Sort of a stepwise process here. Adjust the beat error, adjust the rate. They sort of are not necessarily linked. I mean, you certainly should have independence between the two, but sometimes it helps to sort of keep up with the rate as you change the position of the stud. Make sure we're not getting too far ahead of ourselves in any particular way. You can see the beat error does change a little bit as I change things, so still got a little bit more to go here. That should put us pretty close. Okay. Okay. Might have been too much. Yep, a little bit too much. Yep. Sometimes you just flip and flop back and forth. Okay, that's it. It's pretty close. Let's see if we can take that rate out and get the adjustment right. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, let's get that rate settled. Okay, well, that feels pretty good for a start. I'm going to let that, we could probably adjust a little better. It's going to make some moves here as it increases the amplitude. We'll let that run a little bit, see how we do. But 240, I'll take that, 239. Sure. Numbers look good to me. This is a great watch. This movement is super, super fine. Excellent. Excellent numbers. I had a feeling this was going to be a good one. All right. Very nice. Very nice indeed. Okay. Well, we are going to let this run in for a little while. Let it just get better and better. Sometimes with the movement you can just tell right away it's going to just be solid. I mean, you know, we're what, 3 minutes in here, and we've got maybe 5 minutes in, we've got nearly 240, high 230s. That's where you want to be. That's the ideal. Okay. It's gonna oscillate a little bit, but I think this is really nice. Yeah. All right, this is a strong runner. We're gonna let this break in for a little bit, and we're gonna come back. All right, Luis. Well, things are looking great. This movement is just humming along and making me really happy with the performance. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started with the calendar side reassembly and your keyless works. So let's get you flipped over here. There are some movements where you just kind of know that they're ready to go. And this is definitely one of those. Okay, well, as we always do, it's time to do some lubrication. So let's get that going. Oh, now, come on. There we go. All right, let's get your crown and stem. All right, that's in. Minute wheel. Good. All right. Okay. Excellent. All right, so now we put your day and date wheels on. So first your date wheel, ring I should say, and your plate. Okay. Looks good. All right. Now for your wheel. There we go. C-clip. And with that, that is your movement reconstructed. Let's see how we do. Good. Excellent. All right. Now it's time for your dial in your hands, and then we can finish your watch. We'll be back. Okay, Luis, we're going to get started with the final assembly of everything. So we've got your dial and hands on. Your watch has been ticking away for a little while, so now it's time to go ahead and recase your movement and get your case reassembled, your crystal and your bezels things. So yeah, let's get that going. So first part of this process is, of course, to get the case back on movement, and I do this without actually setting the gear and everything in place. So I like to do this in a way that allows me to ensure that the final retaining ring, the bezel on the outside, your tacky ring, is in its proper place. So this helps me do that because we can align the watch case to the dial. Okay, so we're going to flip this over. And I'm going to just go ahead here and put your, we'll have to come back in here later, put your pushers in, put all your winding components, but this is my process for getting the case back together. And it involves your movement. All right, so there it is. There's your movement. And now I'm going to take your internal rotating ring, and that's going to go in place right there. And now your proper retaining ring washer, your flat washer, and now your, okay, so this is your existing crystal. It has a slight chip here. I'm not too worried about that. I don't think that's going to be an issue for sealing, and you said that you want to keep it, and so I'm going to go ahead and put that back in place. All right, so let's move this down. Okay, so we have to be careful. This crystal is appropriate, but it doesn't quite do the things I like these crystals to do. It's a little bit tight, but that's okay. I mean, it's appropriate. It's just that you have to be very careful. I want to make sure that everything is sealed up and put in properly. And that is that. Okay, so now we can put your tacky ring in place. And what we're going to do is we're going to align things as best we can. All right. Okay, so there we go. Now we're properly aligned and everybody is in place. So now what we can do is finish with the reconstruction of your movement. And so that is your winding components. All right. A little bit of lubrication. Of course, we always lubricate. Reduction gear. And now put your plate. All right. Last couple pieces here. All right. Your pawl lever. Okay. Last two screws. Well, 2 out of 3. Okay. The penultimate screw. And now for your winding weight. Last screw. In we go. Good clearance. So let's go ahead and get your lubricated and properly sealed pushers. We have new seals, new O-rings, and silicone to help keep the moisture at bay for a longer time. Get these in place, and once we do that, we push your pushers into place. Give your ring a slight lift, and away they go. Now they're retained. Now we've got a new gasket for your case back. Get that on. All right. With that, we have completed the service of your 6139 6005. There it is. Lovely, lovely watch that runs great, looks great. It's doing really well. So, Luis, let's go through the last of the items. Let's just kind of review what we've done. You know, it was a really nice, straightforward service. So this was a watch that came in the way I really like to see them. Well used, not abused, had service history for sure. Somebody had actually worked on this watch. It came in and running pretty well, considering it was a watch that needed service. Went through it, did all of the things that we're supposed to do on a 6000 series chronograph. We got it jeweled, fully jeweled, redid all your seals, of course cleaned all the movement components, everything, all of your old seals are here and in crunchy plastic fashion like they usually are. Got your crown seal, of course, and your pusher seals, case back seal. Here's your bushing that we replaced with a new jewel in your upper mainspring arbor port, and we have a new jewel, of course, in the lower mainspring arbor port as well. Left your crystal as is. Got everybody back on. I had spent a little bit of time just taking the haze off of your hands. I don't think I really did a whole lot other than just clean up what had been sort of remnants that were there. But overall, it's just a very pretty watch. You know, these patina in an interesting way. They have a sort of, I would say, it's more like, it's almost as though there's a type of surface issue that pops up over time if there's a little bit of moisture or even just decay. You can see around your ring there's this tiny slight fading of the yellow, and then within you have a couple little dots here and there. But overall your rotating bezel or your rotating ring looks really good, and now it's actually not floppy. It's nice and tight as it should be with that new wavy washer, so that works just as it should. Your day and date, of course, do their quick set as you would expect. So there we go. Run through those. You can do it either. Let's get that. Do the day by itself all the way through. You can do the date independently. Just takes a little thumb practice. Your chronograph starts and stops beautifully. I always recommend to anybody who owns one of these, always try and stop your chronograph as close to 12 as possible. The reason being is that these chronograph wheels are very, very old, and they're pretty sensitive. There's a lot of torque that gets applied. If you stop the chronograph, run it. Running is fine. Running is actually a better state than not running for these movements, because it's fully jeweled when it's running. But if you stop it here and hit the reset button, you're imparting a ton of torque to both the hand and the chronograph wheel. And so that's a no-no generally. What you want to do is leave it run, use it, whatever. But when you're done and you want it to be in the vertical position, wait. Wait until you get as close to midnight as possible. You know, I always say between 11 and 1, but you know, the closer the better. And that way, and you know, that doesn't matter for this. For the minute wheel, minute recording wheel, it's no big deal. But for this, pop it there, give it a little set, and you're all set. All right, well, Luis, thank you very much for allowing me to work on this lovely watch. It's a really great example, and I think you're going to get a lot of great use out of this. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right, well, thanks for watching, and we're going to get this back to you. Take care.